Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Let's take a look at the headlines. Calls for citizens to be on the alert for rising river levels and possible overspill. Trade unions urged to disclose their financial records on an annual basis. And the health minister is considering the HPV vaccinations for boys and at-risk women. In our top story, heavy rainfall over the past few days has raised a number of questions about whether the rainy season has kicked in. But as the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Office assured, the rains are characteristics of an above-average dry season.
Dark skies and heavy rainfall hovering Trinidad and Tobago for the past week has raised cause for concern. The persistent showers has forced rivers to break their banks and in some places floodwaters to rise.
But what exactly is causing these showers, even though the rainy season has not officially started?
According to senior meteorologist at the Trinidad and Tobago Met Office, Kenneth Kerr, this weather pattern falls into forecast conditions for this year's dry season.
Basically, what we have is a mid to or low to mid-level trough, which has been what we call semi-stationary in the vicinity of Trinidad and Tobago and has resulted in this disturbed weather pattern. We must bear in mind, however, that April, there are normally rainfall in April. Last year, for example, we had a similar kind of event occurring in April. We had above normal rainfall.
He assures that this weather pattern does not signify an early start to the rainy season. However, the current rainfall, which is expected to continue into Tuesday, is being strengthened by upward movement of winds.
This system is being aided and abetted or enhanced by what you call upper level jet dynamics, or the wind flow at the upper levels are assisting this system by ensuring that there is good upward lift and allowing for clouds to develop and build.
While rainfall is expected to continue for the next 12 hours, the ODPM is assuring that all systems are on standby to lend support in case of any natural disaster.
Chairman of the ODPM, Dr. Stephen Ramrup, says so far his office has received calls and has dispatched teams to provide assistance.
We have been getting a lot of calls from the Sawa-Laventil area. We have had quite a lot of calls from the Siparia area, from the Mosquito Creek. A number of persons used tweet, and they were tweeting that they were stranded. We got calls from Sangre Grande, for example. We got calls from the media saying that they were getting calls from other areas. So it was quite interesting that most of the calls were centered around, for example, the Sawa-Laventil area, the Sangre Grande area, the Siparia area, Point Fortin area, and my Mosquito Creek there. Some other areas had flooding, but most people dealt with the floods. We had one school in which CPF had to go in and do some mop-up operations. And in the Orapun area, some of the residents were affected by water coming into their homes. The disaster management units were able to go there and give people these sandbags. Mostly it is due to rising waters, which have affected people, causing them to have some damage in their homes. But mostly it's because of flash flooding and landslips and landslides.
Dr. Ramrup, however, attributed most of the flash flooding occurring to the bushfires over the dry season. He notes that his team is working assiduously with communities affected to ensure further damage is curbed before the rainy season kicks into full gear.
Burning of the hills recently because of the dry season, that we would have quite a lot of activity with respect to probably landslides and flooding, street flooding, flash flooding. And we did send a helicopter up a couple of weeks ago to take a look at what was happening. NSOC did it as well. And we have a video which we are actually, we have had two meetings so far with some of the stakeholders in the area to sort of sensitize them.
Meanwhile, Dr. Ramrup urged residents to take the necessary precautions in safeguarding their valuables and their property in an effort to save lives.
If you're living in an area that has been impacted by floods, you need to make sure you have your valuables packed in a proper Ziploc bag, such as your passport, your birth paper. Last time when we moved people, they lost these items and it will take months to get them back. That's very important. Also, if you have children, you make sure you pack Pampers and baby food and whatnot, because when we move you to the shelters, you can't rely on the state to do everything. And also, of course, you have to make sure that you have relatives who might be able to hold you as the first instance, because, you know, most people would rather go to a relative than to go to a shelter. So you have to have these things on your refrigerator, a number to call them, so that if we say, look, we need you to move, while you already have your relatives, we will have transport, we'll take you there. These are some of the things people have to do. Don't go into water that is over ankle high, because if you do that, especially if it's moving, you can die, you can lose property, you can use animals, you can use livestock. If you're in a car, motor vehicle that you are in water moving across, especially moving across a road or whatever, please get out and go to a safe place. You know, don't stay in the motor vehicle because it's just as dangerous. So these are some of the precautions. Listen to the media, listen to all the media and the television, and of course, call your problems into 511. If you have a fire emergency, 990. If you have a police emergency, 999. So, you know, you have these numbers, but 511 if you have any problems.
Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Trade unions are being urged or reminded of their responsibility to disclose their financial records on an annual basis. The call to action comes from the Minister of Labour and Small and Micro Enterprise Development, the Honourable Errol MacLeod.
Minister MacLeod is expressing alarm at the lack of regularity with which trade unions submit their financial statements to the authorities. Trade unions are required by law to submit their financial statements on an annual basis to the Registrar of Trade Unions.
I must express my concern with the lack of reporting by trade unions to the Registrar in accordance with the Trade Unions Act. In many instances, the reporting time frame is not adhered to, and there are delayed responses from the unions. This practice does not augur well for sound governance of trade unions and is in contravention of the Trade Unions Act.
The Labour Minister indicates that although the post had been vacant from 2010 till 2013, this is no excuse, as the last submission on file by any trade union was in 2008. Minister MacLeod says now that the post has been filled, the registrar is in the process of ensuring all the unions submit their financial details as required by law to ensure transparency.
One of the first tasks being undertaken by the Registrar of Trade Unions is to promote compliance with Section 29 of the Trade Unions Act, which requires that all registered trade unions submit by June 1 of every year a general statement of the receipts, funds, effects, and expenditure, showing fully the assets and liabilities at the date and the receipts and expenditure during the year preceding the date to which it is made out of the trade union. In simple terms, all registered trade unions are required to submit to the Registrar of Trade Unions an annual financial return by June 1 of each year for the preceding year.
Minister MacLeod admits the legislation governing the trade union sector in this country is outdated. He says this is why a review of the legislation governing trade unions is being conducted, with aims to improve it and update it where necessary.
It has been recognized that there are some antiquated provisions associated with the Trade Unions Act, which came into being in 1932 and amended on 2 occasions, the most recent being in 1980. We are at this time reviewing certain key pieces of labor legislation as part of a program of modernizing these laws. While our top priority at this time is the review of the Industrial Relations Act, Chapter 8801, we have also recognized the need to examine the Trade Unions Act, particularly in respect of the powers of the Registrar of Trade Unions.
He indicates that neither the Minister of Labour nor the Registrar of Trade Unions can get involved in the operation and internal governance of any trade union. Minister MacLeod reiterates that the only power any arm of the state has over a trade union, according to the law, is to ensure the submission of the union's financial documents to the registrar on a yearly basis. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
After the break, the mayor and San Fernando moves to reduce this country's carbon footprint. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Health Minister Dr. Fouad Khan is considering the human papillomavirus HPV vaccinations for boys and at-risk women. He made the announcement at the launch of the 2013 Vaccination Week in the Americas and Vaccination Day on the Brand-Lara Promenade in Port of Spain. Scores of people lined up to receive vaccines such as yellow fever, tetanus and rubella, among others, on the day of vaccination. In his brief address, Minister Khan says they have been on a program of vaccinating pre-adolescent schoolgirls and is considering giving the vaccination to the first formers, etc.
The reason behind our vaccination program, although the world today, many of those diseases have been curtailed. Why have they been curtailed? Because of items such as what we're doing here, functions of what we're doing here. Making the population aware that vaccination is necessary and it needs to be done to prevent illnesses.
He says recent studies have been showing that it is also beneficial in boys and in women who are susceptible to the actual illness itself.
Now, you would have noticed that we have introduced the human papillomavirus, the HPV virus, the vaccine, sorry. That vaccine is to prevent cervical cancer in the next, let's say, 10, 15, 20 years.
Dr. Khan had initially said in June last year that boys would not be vaccinated, citing costs as a factor. But when asked what caused him to reconsider, this was his reply.
Vaccination is something that people should take seriously. If there is a vaccine to prevent an illness for your child to develop naturally, so one will not be inflicted with cerebral palsy, mental retardation, polio disorders, neurological disorders, hematological disorders, which is blood disorders, one has to determine that this program that we're doing here is necessary.
The HPV vaccine, he says, caused much controversy, which has since died down. But it has become a welcome addition to the vaccination pool, especially for adult women and boys. Vaccination Week in the Americas 2013 was held regionally from April 20th. It is also recognized here in Trinidad and Tobago. A popular topic that has been gaining momentum for some time is green alternatives or eco-friendly solutions to many of life's demands. With this in mind and the need to reduce this country's carbon footprint, the Mayor and San Fernando City Corporation has returned with the San City Green Expo.
The San City Green Expo, now in its second year, got off to an excellent start on Thursday at Skinners Park, San Fernando. Early in its promotion, the Expo's booths were completely booked up and there was great buzz on the ground by residents and business owners in and around the city. His Worship, Mayor of San Fernando, Dr. Navi Murdali, says the Green Expo is designed for persons to interact and learn about the eco-friendly goods and services that are offered by various companies, ministries and agencies in Trinidad and Tobago. He notes that the event is family-oriented and that schools within and outside of the city of San Fernando have been targeted, the overwhelming response of which show there is an interest in sustainable development and going green. Minister of State in the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources, the Honorable Ramona Ramdial, explained the importance of such an event to change the attitudes of persons who take environmental degradation lightly.
I am sure you will all agree that the current state of our waste management and disposal system and the general poor attitudes of our citizenry towards good waste disposal practices is an area that requires urgent attention. It should be noted, though, that the responsibility to manage our waste and educate the public is not solely that of the government, but includes the involvement of all sectors within society. In this regard, environmental education and awareness is the key. Activities such as this Green Expo, which bring together not only citizens from the south of the island, but from all over the country, are essential components of raising and sustaining the environmental consciousness of our population, not only for waste, but for a wide range of environmental issues and initiatives.
Attendees can look forward to over 60 eco-friendly exhibitors, a kids area with a bouncy castle and petting zoo, face painting, local food court, a movie night on the greens each night from 7 p.m., local arts, craft and entertainment, and free giveaways. The Sun City Green Expo 2013 runs from April 25th to 28th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and admission is only one canned food item, which goes towards the City Corporation's homeless project. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Up next, the very latest in sports. Stay with us. Welcome back. Football features in our sportscast as TT Pro League club Caledonia AIA kept their CONCACAF Champions League dream alive with a workmanlike win over Antigua Barracudas on Sunday night at the Artabolden Stadium. Sports boss Wayne Cunningham was in Couva and he has the highlights.
Caledonia AIA won the wrong side of a 4-0 thumping on match day 1 of the Caribbean Football Union CONCACAF Champions League qualifying tournament, which put them in a must-win situation on match day 2 when they faced the Antigua Barracudas. The winners of Group 1 will automatically qualify for the Champions League. And fellow pro-leaguers W Connection FC are in pole position after Friday's demolition of AIA. But with a win, the chance of a playoff versus Group 2 runners-up is in the cards. The Antiguans got a first look at goal with this free kick from Hazley Pyle, which goalkeeper Glenroy Samuel had his eyes on all the way. Minutes later, Samuel was abandoned by his defenders and had to deal with an onrushing Tamale Thomas. The post helped him keep the score at 0-0. Caledonia would find their legs in the 12th minute. Argentine midfielder Miguel Romeo with a cross which caused the initial problem. And Jamal Gabe beats the offside trap to put away the knockback. In the 34th minute, the Mova Laventil men doubled their lead. It was the Argentine Romeo again with some quick thinking to set up Denzel Theobald for an expert finish. "2-0 Cali" was how they went in at the break. In the 62nd minute, AIA got the golden opportunity to go 3-0 up, but Gay grazed the wrong side of the upright with only the keeper to beat. And they continue to squander good opportunities. Substitute Sharon Joseph was way too casual, and his effort was cleared off the line by Omari Daniel. Then national defender Aubrey David left the post rocking in Couva with this bullet. Those misses seemed to give Barracudas renewed hope of getting something from this match, but Glenroy Samuel was in good form in the Caledonia goal after a long stint on the bench. The former under-20 goalkeeper could do nothing about Andre Mander's 88-minute goal, as the defending once again looked lackluster. After that, AIA just stepped up a gear and restored their 2-goal advantage. Nathan Lewis schooling the defender on the line, then lays it on for Kian Edwards to finish. 3-1, the final score in Couva. Midfielder Romeo and goalkeeper Samuel making use of their starts after long stints on the Caledonia bench. The final game of the qualifiers will be on Tuesday at the Artabolden Stadium from 6 p.m. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
When we return, much more news on News 4. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. President of the Republic of Guyana, Donald Ramuta, says relations between this country and his can be used as a bridge for the further opening up of the Latin American business market. Addressing members of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce at its conference themed Exploring Markets in Guyana, Opportunities and Incentives to Attract Foreign Investment, the president said a deepening of ties between both nations stood to increase through business ventures and the sharing of expertise.
CARICOM members are being urged to look to the South Americas for potential investment through Caribbean neighbor Guyana. President of Guyana, Donald Ramota, speaking to members of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce, called on the business community to expand their business reach as the access spots were already available through a Latin American CARICOM member.
It's time, I think, that the Caribbean also takes notice about what is happening in our southern hemisphere and the possibilities that we have that can be developed there. And Guyana can be a bridge. That we have been hearing about this a long time, but I think that this dream is now becoming a reality, where we could be a bridge between the Caribbean and South America and offer our Caribbean investors huge possibility in getting into our market.
The president painted Guyana as a rich destination for potential investors as he outlined plans for the country's economy, including the establishing of an $850 million hydroelectric plant, as well as a boost in the agriculture sector. However, he alluded to the strengthening of ties between this country and Guyana, as he expressed hopes in the sharing of expertise in the oil and gas sector, as it anticipates the tapping into high energy reserves. His comments followed after Energy and Energy Affairs Minister Kevin Ramnarine met with Guyana's Natural Resources and the Environment Minister Robert Passad earlier this year for the finalizing of the Memorandum of Cooperation between both countries aimed at formalizing training and support for the private sector and future development of Guyana's oil and gas sector.
And in the mining sector as well, and this is where I think we will have we will look towards Trinidad for a lot of assistance, is the possibility of us finding gas and oil on our offshore. Right now, there's a lot of interest in that, and it is even being predicted that the Guyana-Suriname basin, it probably has the second largest reserve of undiscovered or unexploited oil at this point in time. So that possibility of us joining with you as being an oil and gas country is not so distant and not so distant anymore. But we will look towards you for a lot of assistance to tap into your experience and your know-how to help us in this area.
The president assured that a required financial infrastructure for business investment was also available in the South American state.
We have created institutions in Guyana to facilitate investment. I'm not saying that there's no difficulty, but we're working very, very hard to remove bureaucratic obstacles. We have the Go Invest area that helps to facilitate investment in our society. We have the privatization unit and a NISIL. That's another area that you can contact to look at the tax incentives and the regimes that we have. We have the Guyana Forestry Commission that you can also contact to get information from in investment in forestry and forest products. We have the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission that can also give you directly all the information that you probably require if you're interested in mining the different regimes and the tax incentives that we have for investments there.
Already a number of local banking and conglomerate businesses have made Guyana their extended home. This meeting also comes ahead of Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissess's assumption of the chair of CARICOM position in July. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
And that story brings us to the end of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Thank you for watching.